So we like to say, Microsoft used to say, a computer on every desktop. We like to say a SkyCentrics module on every heat pump. And there's
Excellent.
millions of heat pumps that have to go into the world. So electrification, decarbonization. Then you have sort of the open standard, open source movement. Obviously, Linux being the biggest of that.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Grow IT podcast. One of your hosts here, Trey King. And today we're excited to have our guest Tristan from SkyCentrics. And we'll be diving into his story a little bit, as well as what it is that his company does, and some engaging insights into the technology industry. So make sure to stick around for this one. But without further ado, Tristan, welcome to the Grow IT podcast.
Yeah, great to be here. Good community of folks.
Excellent. Tristan, if you don't mind, if you can just quickly just introduce yourself and tell a quick snippet of your story, if you don't mind.
Sir, my name's Tristan De Frondeville. I'm the CEO of SkyCentrics. And for the last 10,000 years, for the last 100 years, yeah, 10,000 is a long time.
Yeah,
For
it's
the
a long
last
time.
100 years, all of the large electricity using machines in buildings, in your homes, in commercial buildings that heat and cool air and water run by your thermostat have typically gone on and off at a random time. You barely notice the air starting in your HVAC system. You never notice whether your water heater is on or off. But these random devices that have gone on randomly need to be orchestrated in the future so that when the grid is clean and full of renewable energy and inexpensive, they use more energy. And when the grid is dirty and more expensive, they use less energy. To be able to do that, you need to connect those devices to the cloud, to the internet, to be able to receive signals about the condition of the grid. And that's what SkyCentrics does. We free the machines, give them a voice, and bring them into the modern age.
Oh, wow. That is excellent. That is excellent. Tell me, Tristan, how did you get into this business sector? What was it that sparked your initial interest, that you're so passionate about?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. So, ironically, we had a house in Tahoe and in the snow, in the cold,
Yeah,
and an icicle fell off the roof and broke a window, and we didn't know about it. And the thermostat and the hot water heater were going on and off a lot more, mostly the thermostat, as you can
yeah,
imagine, lots of cold air in the house. And we
yeah,
said to ourselves, if that thermostat had been connected to our phones, to the internet, to our remote access, as of course many are now, we would have known. So this was literally over 10 years ago. And at the time, Nest had not even started, and we sort of headed into trying to do connected thermostats. However, one of the big differences is we always imagined a module, sort of a
yeah,
magic USB stick for machines that would be able to easily get machines to connect not only by Wi-Fi, which most of them do if they can connect at all, but
yeah.
also by low-cost cellular, potentially by satellite in the agricultural industry. And so this USB stick, we all know how useful it was at the beginning of the computer age when you weren't even sure if your laptop was going to have Wi-Fi. And that's what we need for machines, to give them a voice and to be able to orchestrate them to grid signals. We need to give them an inexpensive way to connect and have to choice about communications. We call that communication path flexibility. So if I'd had that, and if we'd had the connected thermostat, I would have known that my house had broken a window.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Tell me, Tristan, based on your expertise, right? What would you say are like the current market trends that you are aware of? What's been happening in your sector? From what way is the wind blowing these days? What have you been noticing?
Well, thanks for asking. Interestingly enough, because we're a startup that's been around a little longer than most, 10 years,
Yeah,
we talk about the tsunami of those trends that we've been predicting. And the tsunami is finally here. So let's look at those trends. First of all, you have electrification and decarbonization, the idea that we want to use more electricity and less and more clean electricity and fewer fossil fuels. So that in particular means a lot of the machines we have that are using gas need to be replaced by electric using machines, but also by heat pumps. So we like to say, Microsoft used to say, a computer on every desktop. We like to say a SkyCentrics module on every heat pump. And there's
Excellent.
millions of heat pumps that have to go into the world. So electrification, decarbonization. Then you have sort of the open standard, open source movement, obviously Linux being the biggest of that. And here, just a little show and tell. So this is the CTA-2045 EcoPort
Yeah.
with that branding. The EcoPort is either the ecological port or the economical port. You can
Yeah.
choose. And this is the module. It's a little bigger than your standard USB stick. And if this port is on a device like a water heater, our module plugs right in, right? So there it is. And that's an open standard.
Yeah.
Anybody, just like USB was an open standard, that's what makes things become more useful at scale more quickly. So one other thing, obviously, open standards for commercial buildings are really needed. We're involved in a project called the Interoperable Building Box. This Skybox, we call it, which gives an eco port to all the commercial building loads that don't have the eco port. We talk their old language, a 50-year-old language, and we give them modern connectivity with low-cost cellular inside or the module, and then it's available for grid signal. So that's what we do. And Linux for buildings is an exciting thing where the same plug and play, you buy a router here, you buy a camera there in your residential homes. Well, that's what we need for commercial buildings. So we're
Yeah.
a big part of that. Again, interoperable building box, Linux for buildings.
Tell me, and then from from if we can maybe stick to the market as well, what would you say is the current market sentiment like, in your
Well,
space?
interesting question. Obviously, we've had a big change at the top in
Yeah.
politics. Prior to that,
Yeah.
obviously, things that were involved with the climate were positive. The Inflation Reduction Act.
Mm.
Uh, But look, there's a lot that's already in play. So that everybody knows, in 2029, you will no longer be able to buy an electric resistance water heater. It's going to
Yeah.
change to heat pump water heaters. So we talked about heat pumps. Heat
Yeah.
pumps, unlike electric resistance and gas that can only go to 98, 99% efficiency, a heat pump water heater is 400% efficient. How can you do that? Seems like a infinite perpetual motion machine. Well, it does that because instead of creating heat, it moves heat. It pumps heat just like your refrigerator does. It's been around for a long time. So um, that is a big market transformer, right? Those heat pumps automatically require a digital architecture. Therefore, it's easy to put this eco port inside those. In fact, because Washington and Oregon passed a law requiring the CTA 2045 eco port in every water heater as of January 1 of last year. So about
Yeah.
18 months, 150,000 water heaters with that eco port are going in place over there. And in 2020, by 2029, every water heater that's electric has to be a heat pump with the eco port.
Excellent. So that's actually some good projection you can look forward to for the business then, right?
That's
That's
right.
yeah, that's excellent. The what would you've now mentioned a couple of things, obviously what your business does, but what would you say um would be the most significant value that your business can either bring to the end users, or I do not know if you do business with B2B with other companies as well, but that significant value out of things that you've mentioned, what would you say would be the most value?
Sure. So we're a very interesting company, right? Most companies focus on one vertical market. Might be utilities, might be commercial building owners, it
Mm.
might be OEMs that make the equipment for commercial building owners, might be a residential customer. And we've built a platform that we call the Dream Platform: demand response, energy, and asset management. And that Dream Platform is providing value to every single one of those people: the utilities, the building owners, the people who make the machines for the buildings, and the people who live and operate inside those buildings. Now, you asked, what's the biggest value? Well, historically, we've been mostly getting value and checks written by utilities. But we always saw that commercial buildings, especially, I mean, if you think about it, residential buildings, there's a lot of voice control: Google, Amazon, Apple, not exactly the companies you want to go head to head with. But in commercial buildings, there's very old systems, large incumbents, and we really want to connect to those loads. So commercial building owners are an exciting opportunity to be able to bring those connected loans that we know about thermostats in residential homes, bring that
Yep.
connectivity to commercial buildings, and let them have remote access to their buildings. Less than 2% of the machines in commercial buildings are connected to the internet.
What? You serious?
I am.
Yeah, that is a very interesting stat. My
And
word.
I'll tell you why it's interesting, right? When I started this 10 years ago and told people I was going to connect the thermostats in commercial buildings, already Nest was out. And people said, well, wait a minute, if I can connect to my home thermostat, of course, commercial buildings that are much bigger, more expensive,
Yes.
have connected devices. Not the case. Less than 2% of the machines in commercial buildings are connected to the cloud. And even when they have what's called a building management system,
Yep.
they you have to VPN, virtual private network, into every building one by one. So if you own 1,000 buildings, you don't see that situational awareness of all your buildings on one dashboard on the internet. You have to dial in to every
Dial in.
building.
Yep. My word. I get it. I get it. The Tristan, if we can maybe just step back and look at it like a from a 30,000 foot point of view, regarding your business, in your opinion, what type of mindset would you say is needed to be a proper successful founder of a business?
Well, as my wife says, the executive director of a startup accelerator, she
Yeah.
says you have, and founder mentality is all of a sudden a popular thing, all of a sudden in a little bit. But the first thing she said when she met me is, well, you're a survivor. Another fun expression is you got to crawl on your belly through the desert of broken glass. Uh, so there's no doubt that you have to be nimble, you have to be thinking, you have to be creative, and as you're looking for product market fit, I think for me, what paid off the most is my ability to create relationships. If you create high integrity, uh, good customer service relationships, you can build on that. Your reputation builds on that. And so besides that resilience, perseverance, dogged, think about your business all the time, I think creating great relationships will really hold you in good stead.
Really hold you. The and then what would you say would be the most important things? Because obviously you've been at it for quite some time with the business, and there's always some bumps in the road, just like you mentioned now as well. If you had to give us one or two nuggets to let's say the younger listeners that would like to enter the market or want to start their business, are there a couple of things that you might can give us on things that you've learned in your career that like really made a difference, at obviously of to be able to move forward?
Sure. Um, First of all, the number of setbacks and the strange setbacks that you can't control is really frustrating. So
Yep.
you have to really focus on everything you can control, because the things you can't control are difficult. Now, look, in my particular case, I did something that I would never do. And so this is to everybody thinking of starting your own business, okay? I recommend that you start with something where you can create the solution and sell it with no reliance on any other company. Just create it, sell it directly to your customer. Now, sometimes there's going to be third parties and intermediaries, but let me just tell you what you don't want to do, which is what I did. So I became the master of a communication module. Think
Yeah.
about it like a USB stick for a USB port that needed to be in machines before I could sell my module and my connectivity and my exciting story of orchestrating devices to the grid, right? And for many years, there was only pilot quantities of water heaters that had this. So imagine you're the master expert of a USB stick and there's no USB ports in computers. Luckily, a year and a half ago, Washington and Oregon, not the big leading states like California and Texas,
Yeah.
they mandated the port on every new electric water heater, and my tsunami started building up.
Okay. All right. So I get what you're saying. That's actually some good, those are wise words that, like you said, for the guy starting up is not to, if I understand correctly, is not to start something that you necessarily have to rely on somebody else to make, to make your business grow, or to be dependent on someone else to go do it. Yeah, those are wise words.
And especially, by the way, at the same time, right, for human resources, there's all kinds of services and all of the great startups that I see in
Yeah.
my wife's incubator, for example, right? They grab, especially the young people, they're grabbing software and combining it all the time, which gives them very low cost of entry. But you want to pick your core product and service, and you want to be able to deliver that completely independently of anything else.
Wise words from Tristan. I need to thank you for coming on today. Tell me, Tristan, where can the listeners get hold of you? What
Sure.
channels or
So
email?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Tristan, Tristan at SkyCentrics.com,
Yeah,
LinkedIn, Tristan, and we are at SkyCentrics.com. So LinkedIn mostly.
excellent. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for your time. This has been very interesting and very informative. Thank you.
Hey, can we do one more thing? I should not put my personal email. So can you ask me that question, how to get a hold of you one more
Sure.
time, and they'll edit it out.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Tristan, just before I let you go, if you don't mind, just to tell us where can the listeners get hold of you?
Sure. So LinkedIn, Tristan, Tristan De Frondeville. At LinkedIn, we obviously have a website, www.skycentrics.com, and look forward to hearing from you and hearing if we can help your machines get connected, free the machines, give them a voice.
Excellent. Thank you for this informative session. I'm sure not just myself, but a lot of other listeners have learned a lot today. Thanks for sharing, Tristan.
All right. Well, join the energy revolution.
Take care. All the best. Bye
You
now.
bet.